If I could have your attention, please. I'll call our meeting to order. This is the July meeting of the Wilson County Board of Zoning Appeals. We have a prepared agenda that has been advertised. If we have anyone here this morning who has a case on our agenda that would like the case deferred to another meeting or would like to withdraw, we'll hear requests to defer or withdraw at this time. And hearing no one, our agenda will remain as advertised. We have a court recorder here with us this morning. The court recorder is provided at the expense of Wilson County. If you would like a transcript of a particular case, that transcript will be at your expense. And if you would please see the court recorder at the conclusion of today's meeting. Just a reminder to everyone, if you would please, silence your cell phone. Also, to remind you that the meeting this morning is being taped for later broadcast on local cable channels and Wilson County TV. The state requires that we have a general comment period before the board, before every public meeting. The general comment period is not for comments pertaining to any individual case. We'll call for public comments on the individual cases as we move through the agenda. But does anyone wish this morning to address the board, not on a particular case, but in a general comment way for any issue that pertains to the board, but not in regard to a particular case? Does anyone wish to address the board during the general public comment period? And seeing none, I'll close the general public comment period. If you do plan to make a statement in front of the board this morning, you'll need to be sworn in. So if you do plan to make a statement at this time, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in front of this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. As we move through the agenda, I'll call each case, read the case into the record. We'll hear staff recommendations. The board will consider the staff recommendations as we render our decision. If you are the person representing the case, we'll ask you to come forward first, make any comment that you'd like to make to the board. You may be asked questions by the board that you'll want to respond to. After the applicant has had the opportunity to speak, we'll call for anyone else who wishes to address the case, either in favor of or in opposition to. Turning to the board, earlier this month you were sent the minutes from the June meeting. You've had an opportunity to review those minutes. Do I hear any corrections at this time to the June minutes? If not, do I hear a motion we approve the minutes from the month of June?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve June's minutes. All in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no, and the ayes have it. Okay. Moving into the regular agenda, our first case will be case 4163. This was deferred from our March meeting. Jason Lewis and Jason Nichols requesting to use property for storing or parking boats, recreational vehicles. Property is located at 515 Mays Chapel Road, parcel 10.01 on Wilson County Tax Map 48. The property consists of 6 acres and is owned A1 agricultural. We'll get staff recommendations now on 4163.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting to use the property for storing or parking of boats and recreational vehicles. RV and boat storage is not an allowed use or use on appeal on an A1 zone property. Given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff recommends denial. This was deferred from your March 21st, 2024 meeting. My recollection is it was deferred for them to have time to investigate their soils, to see if they had any soils. I know there had been some discussion about precedent that had been set whereby we may have allowed some of these types of uses in A1 and R1 where soils was not available and sewer was not available. To my knowledge, I've been given no new information.
Okay. And they requested to get back on the agenda.
They were deferred till this month.
We deferred them for 2 months or ever how long.
They
Okay.
requested to be placed.
Okay, got you.
Okay.
All right. Who's here to represent 4163? Yes, sir. Sure. You're the applicant, right?
Yes, Jason Nichols.
And ma'am, are you the applicant or you want to speak later? That's fine. Go ahead.
All right. So my name's Jason Nichols, Wilson County resident, lived in Mount Juliet for about 7 years. My friend and business partner, Jason Lewis, is here, also lives in Mount Juliet. So we, at the start of the year, purchased some land off of Mays Chapel Road and are here to propose using it for boat and RV parking. We understand that there have been many similar proposals over the last 6 months or so, and really I'm just hoping to use this time to convince you why our land is uniquely situated to meet this particular need in the county. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about why boat and RV storage is needed in the area for both current and future residents. We detailed that in our proposal about the growth of boat and RV ownership in Wilson County, combined with the lack of that particular service, especially near our where our land is located. Happy to answer any questions about that, but hoping that what's in the proposal, combined with the fact that there have been several requests that have come through here, reveal that that's a need in the county. What I'd like to focus on instead is why we think this hasn't been approved and why our proposal is different. First, as Tom mentioned, we understand that this isn't a particular specific use that's permitted within 4A1 agricultural zone land in Wilson County. It's very clear that there are specific uses permitted, like dog grooming facilities, daycare centers, and golf courses. We met with Tom, and he told us that he'd not be able to give us a positive recommendation because of this. However, as he mentioned, there has been precedence in the county where A1 agricultural land was used for boat and RV parking, specifically land located off of Double Log Cabin Road that is currently operating as Lagardo Boat and RV Parking. From what we understand, as Tom mentioned, the main reason was because the land failed soil testing. And as you can see on page 2 of our proposal, that's exactly what our land did as well. With that failed soil testing, it significantly limits what can be done on the land, but one perfect such use that we can use for failed soils is allowing residents to park boats and RVs on the land. Secondly, we understand that there are concerns from neighbors who don't want to look out their window and see a bunch of boats parked or see a huge influx of traffic around their land. Several of those neighbors are likely here today to voice those concerns. To address the concern of visibility, our land is situated on a hill and is surrounded by mature trees. Our plan is to leave a 30-foot tree line surrounding the entire property, as well as have the gate be over 100 feet from Mays Chapel Road. We believe that with these measures, neighbors won't be able to see any vehicles parked on our land. Combine the tree line with a plan to keep lighting minimal and motion activated, plus strict operating hours, we believe disruptions from visibility issues will be minimal. For concerns on increased traffic, our plan estimates a maximum capacity of 150 vehicles that we could possibly park at the land for maximum capacity. Data shows that boat and RV owners use their boat and RV 28 days per year. Given that, at a maximum capacity, that's an average of 12 vehicles coming in and out of our land on our property daily. We're not talking about building a McDonald's or a Walmart where you're going to have tons of people coming in and out on a daily basis. This is long-term storage for nearby residents who don't have many other options. Lastly, we are not new to this type of business, and we are confident we can deliver the plan as laid out, as well as operate the facility to exceed the expectations of the residents. We have operated a small self-storage facility in Cookeville, Tennessee for the last year. We understand how to operate this type of facility and are confident we can successfully operate it in a way that'll make residents proud. The reality is, with the fact that the soils failed testing, our options are limited in how we can use this land to benefit Wilson County residents. And although boat and RV parking isn't a specific permitted use on appeal, there is precedence in the county in situations like ours. We believe we have found the perfect use of the land that will not only provide a much-needed service to current and future residents, but something that we can do while minimally impacting neighbors with a service we have experience operating. Thank you for your consideration. We're happy to answer any questions.
You have used the word precedent a few times. In this board, every case stands on its own.
Understood?
It's not like there is a particular precedent set, because every case is different, it's at a different address, and it normally encompasses a large number of varying circumstances. So I would disagree that there are precedents involved here.
Understood.
There was another one of the boat storage facility approved many years ago, and I think I mentioned this to you earlier in the year when you were here, that the uniqueness of that site went beyond the lack of a soil site. If I recall, this has been many years ago, and I could be mistaken, but I think they did have a lack of soil site. They had an extremely irregular shaped lot that was partially due to a TVA easement that had been introduced across the lot. So there are a number of factors there that contributed to that decision, not just the absence of a soil site.
Understood.
I noticed on your proposal there's a house right in front of this piece of property. Do y'all own that house?
We do not, no.
Okay. All right. And what would you propose the hours of your facility to be?
Initially from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So really taking into account people that are trying to get out early, an RV owner or a boat owner, and then give them time to come back in the summertime to park.
And that would be like an electric gate or something of that nature?
Yeah, it would be an automatic gate that would have a key code that each person that parked there would have access to. That would, open, like I said, about 100 feet off of the road. So there would be minimal lighting just for the keypad there. And then once they got into the property, there would be some motion activated lights just so they could park safely.
So there is lighting involved. I see. Okay. And this said, now you said initially from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. What happens after initially?
Oh, sorry. I just meant our initial plan is to have it open from 6 to 10 p.m. and if there are issues, and that's something that if we limited the hours, that would make it more acceptable to neighbors of the board. That's something that we could consider.
And what about paving?
Paving?
Is it a paved lot?
We do plan to pave it, yes.
Is it covered?
We plan to cover half of it, so give options to residents. We know that some are interested in having their boat or RV covered. So if you look at the plot plan, the initial 2 lots will be split, half uncovered, half covered, and then depending on demand for the third and fourth portions, we would build that accordingly.
Well, I jumped in with my questions. I'm sorry. Others have questions?
How much visibility do you have on the hill on May Shepherd?
Visibility, like if you're standing on the hill from our land,
Coming in and out of there?
how much visibility?
There's one
Sorry.
on Stewart's Ferry. Reason I'm asking you is there is one on Stewart's Ferry that has very, very little visibility. And your visibility for people coming in and out of there during the day at those hours concerns me.
Yeah, so we actually had this idea. I live next to Pine Creek Golf Course, and I don't know if many of you are familiar with, there is a storage facility there that is right next called Old Timer Storage. They have over 300 vehicles from what I can estimate, going back there with a friend that has something parked back there. Similarly, tree lined, you wouldn't know it when you drove past it. And I rarely ever see anyone pulling in and out of there. So that's the idea. Their gate is set back from Logue Road, again, about 100 feet. It is a tree-lined property. When you're on the golf course, when you're driving on the road, you would never know that those vehicles are back there. And so similarly, that's what we're saying is if you look at the pictures, they are mature trees. We're leaving a 30-foot tree line. We don't think you're going to be able to see anything from the road. and it won't be a nuisance or an eyesore to neighbors based on that tree line.
But if you, I mean, I see what you're saying from the gate, from the driveway entrance. But if I'm in front of the house, I don't see a lot of trees in between the road and Lot A.
Yeah, where there is, and I'm not sure when that picture was taken, the previous owner had taken out some of the trees there, so we're going to put back, in order to maintain a 30-foot tree line, we will have some privacy trees that we will plant, similar to what you see around new developments. I forget what they're called, the specific tree, Thuja Green Giants, I think is the main one, but thick trees that'll help with that visibility where they had been taken down. But again, a 30-foot tree line, even for that house that's there in the front, should be sufficient to not be able to see anything back there.
Question I have,
Go ahead.
Please.
real quick. This picture here of this house sitting beside your property you're proposing, how would you address, even if you lived in that home, this is A1 agriculture, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and most people move to those areas because they don't want to be beside Walmart or Kroger's or the interstate or whatever. So how would you convince those people, even like I said, if you lived there, how that wouldn't disturb what they're dealing with now, the life they're living there now? They're in agricultural, and now we want to put where these 150 people, whatever, coming out, there's boats, people going and coming. So put yourself in that, if that was your house, how would you address those concerns?
Yeah, no, I completely understand, but what I'm saying is that with how far back the parking starts and the tree line that's there, that they won't be able to look back and see those because of that tree line.
But if someone's over there parking or getting their recreational vehicle, I mean, these houses are they're right there. They're very close. Seems like I don't know how you would maintain their solitude or what, their way of life there if there's people coming and going with RVs all hours and not by all hours. I understand you said you would limit the hours, but still at 6 in the morning, some people are still in bed. 10 at night, I've been in bed, 2 hours.
I mean, I understand that, but I have two neighbors on both sides of me that both own RVs, and they're out there in the morning packing up and getting ready to go. And so I don't think it's a nuisance because they're not waking me up when they're loading their RV up and going in the morning or coming back at night. And they live right next to my house, significantly closer than what we're saying that where people park.
The ordinance requires a plot plan to be submitted for any application for special use permit. Have y'all submitted anything of that nature other than this packet?
We were told that the plot plan, and when we met with Tom and Karen, that what we had there was sufficient for this meeting, and that if it was approved, that later there would be a meeting with the actual planning committee to have a formal plot plan submitted for it.
I believe the word would be site plan approval.
Site plan approval.
Site plan approval that's correct.
Planning commission.
But the ordinance requires a plot plan,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
To be submitted. Okay.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Howard.
I got a question as far as the time. So what's your plan for, you said it'd be available, let's say 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Okay, what prevents somebody from coming at 5:30 in the morning?
The gate automatically prevents it. So you can set timing on the gate so that it won't allow people to access it during certain periods of time.
So the gate would be shut down from that period of time?
Yep.
Electric?
Yep.
And you have electric in that area already?
We have electric. We would have to run a service to power the gate up there, so we'd have to have that installed.
What about lighting in the area where all the parking is going to be?
Yeah, so we'll have minimal lighting. It'll, again, be below the tree line and motion activated. So once you get beyond the gate, there will be some lights that come on to allow them to park if it's dark, to help that, and then they will be motion activated to shut off as soon as they leave.
And of course, you have no idea how much noise this is going to create at any given time. It could be 9:30 at night. Several vehicles show up, so you have no idea what the noise level would be for the residents in the area.
Again, I live next to people that park their RVs, load them and unload them, and there's the gate will not really make a noise. The people parking their vehicle, I don't know that they'll be clanging pots and pans or anything, but, you know, that they'll just be parking to leave it and then pull away.
Okay.
Yeah, and y'all have purchased this piece of property already?
Yes, sir.
You own it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is what you had planned to do when you bought it?
That was the initial idea, yes.
Uh-huh.
I've got a couple, I guess, concerns. Number one, you've got it broke down here, 150 boats, RVs, and you've done a calculating on that it average out to 12 vehicles per day. But I mean, you know, everybody knows some days are going to be a lot busier than others. So, you know, you kind of project 12 vehicles a day is not that big of an impact, but weekends are going to be busy. 4th of July, there's going to be days when that 150, you know, I don't know exactly, but there's going to be days where it's going to be a lot busier than, and my other concern would be the size of these. You know, we're talking about RVs and we're talking about boats. I mean, you know, we're not talking about just a regular car or truck traffic. We're talking about RVs and then trucks pulling boats. So I would have a little bit of concern about the size of that, adding that to a, you know, pretty dense residential area, it looks like to me. So just wanted to make that statement.
I understand. I guess my response to that would be, again, I live right next to
Right, I understand.
one of these that has over twice as what we're projecting, and I have, in the 7 years that I've lived there, rarely seen a boat RV, and we are 10 minutes from the Percy Priest dock. So I understand the concern of traffic. I don't think it's what people believe, where you're just going to have it. This is a long-term storage facility. People are going to use it, of course, more in the summertime if they're parking a boat than in the wintertime. But it is not a gas station. It is not a McDonald's. It is not like a bunch of cars coming in and out. It is intended to be a long-term storage facility.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you, sir. Does anyone else here wish to address 4163, Mr. Lewis and Mr. Nicholson, boat storage? Yes, sir. If you do, come right on one at a time, please. Come to the podium. Give us your name and address for the record.
Morning. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Ed Courtney. I'm a retired Army officer. I own the adjoining property at 396 Mays Chapel Road. I have horses on my property. I use that. A lot of the property is, you can see the gravel parking lot area or the arena on the left or right-hand side of the screen there. So my concern has to do with the welfare and protection of my animals. There's a fence line there, but that fence line is not a high chain link fence. It is just a normal fence that you would find on any farm. And I haven't heard anything addressed about how my welfare, my animals would be protected from anybody that's in there at 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock in the morning, from wandering over my fence or from, attempting to see my animals or whatever. And I'm concerned that there's no control. The 30-foot fence or 30-foot buffer of trees. I'm not worried about seeing stuff so much as I am about people wandering around or approaching my property line and addressing my concerns about the animals that I have on my property. I am concerned about the traffic. It is a narrow 2-lane road. The entrance to the property is on a slight curve. So there's a safety address of how you got large vehicles, trailers, and pulling in and pulling out on a curve area there. I've had people in wet weather run off the road and tear down 30 feet of my fence because they're traveling at a high rate of speed or they're not driving safely in bad weather. So I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about if he paves the property, it is on a slope, it is on a hillside, there's a lot of runoff. And where's that going to go? It's going to go into the neighbor's property, not mine, but it's going to go into a neighbor's property. And I'm not sure that the drainage will address a large concrete surface with a lot of runoff. Those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else wants to speak? Yes, ma'am. Come forward, please.
Good morning.
Morning. Name and address, please.
Robin Morthell, Bender Morthell, 525 Mace Chapel Road. Our property is directly across from the said place that they would like to put a boating dock, RV dock. I've lived on that street all my life. It's always been residential. My mother is elderly, even though it may be X amount of feet across from my mom's property. There's lighting issues. That road is very narrow. There's already traffic that cuts through from Lebanon Road to get to Bender's Ferry. So you're talking about additional traffic. You're talking about an RV, a boat, trying to go into that property across from my mom's property. And that's just a lot. That's always been residential property. It is a community. It's not a place for boat storage or RV or AV, whatever it is the people want to put across from there, and we have a great concern about that. My mother is elderly, and that's even irrelevant. It is the street in a little curve. My thought is, how are you going to make that turn without disturbing our property right across the street from it? It could be back in the woods, and it may be. And some of the property has already been cleaned out. Whoever bought it before, apparently it did not work for them. So they sold it. So now you want to put a storage in a residential area? My thought is, go to a commercial area. This is a residential area where people on Mace Chapel Road have lived there all of our lives. And we do not need the additional traffic going down that street. People drive fast like crazy, and it's very distracting. I don't want to go sit out on my porch, and my vision is watching boats, RVs, ATV going in and out. That's just not appealing or attractive to any of the neighbors surrounding us. The noise, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. is critical time of people going and coming. Whether you're up or whether you're asleep, whether you're going to sleep or whether you're getting up. That would be a huge distraction to the residents on Mace Chapel Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Do you want to speak? Just y'all come on up one at a time. Yes, sir.
Kelly Cook, 395 Mace Chapel Road.
Yes, sir.
I live across the street from this development, and I'm strongly opposed. He says this is going to be built on a hill, and my house is built on a bigger hill. Looking out on the front porch, I'll be looking down on this and see it every morning and every evening I come home. And they were talking about Mace Chapel Road being a thoroughfare. There's also being built less than a mile from here, 200 additional homes in a new subdivision that's going to be traveling there. During that construction, I witnessed a cement truck turn over in the ditch because this road is so narrow. I feel like the extra traffic, and it's already 35 miles an hour, is just they don't travel 35 miles an hour up and down that road, especially trying to avoid all of the traffic on Highway 70, West Elementary. They come through there in the mornings, and it's just asking for trouble. My next point was, if it won't perk, what are they going to do about bathrooms on this thing? Are they going to put porta-johns up for people to use the bathroom? That's all I got to say, but I'm against this.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Good morning. I'm Kerry Majors, 560 Mace Chapel Road. I'm that little house right in front of all of that.
I was wondering when you'd show up.
And I am against it. I made my little notes here. And I'll go by what the owner said, and I'll start with the runoff. I already get runoff from the cleanup of that property right now. It's already just water running all over that hill, and it's running down my driveway and behind my house. We had to block it to keep water from going under my house. So that's one problem. The tree line that he was saying they were going to put up there, I took pictures of the tree line. The tree line is good in the summertime. It's not good in the wintertime. There's no trees, no leaves. So this is pictures of without trees, without leaves. So you can see that area during the wintertime. So if you want to look at these, you can. My property value, what's going to happen when you put boats and all of that around my home? The traveling on the driveway there, my mailbox has been knocked down 3 times. Last year was the last time. It was a stone mailbox. I quit putting it up. I put a regular mailbox up so it gets knocked out. I can put it back up quicker. So all of that, what everybody said is true, except I am the house that's going to get rained on or covered with water. I am going to see all of that out my back door. If you want these photographs, I got pictures from the back door, the side door, all of it.
We put those in the record if you'd like.
You can keep them, okay. And like he just said, 200 homes going down and 150 more cars. I estimate that we got 200 homes, average 2 cars per home. That is 400 cars now on that road, along with the 150 with the travel trailers. Look at all the traffic that's going to come up, and that's going to make it worse. So I'm just saying, I don't like it. My home is more affected, but everybody across the street, just imagine she's got a picnic or something going on at her home, and here's trailers going in and out in front of her house there. I wouldn't want to see all of that. At nighttime, I'm right at it. So I can hear whatever. We're in the country, and you can hear anything anyway. You're going to hear any little piece of deer come across the yard. You're going to hear all of that. So it's just going to be noisy. But I don't like it because of where it is. It's a residential area. I'm affected. There's another car house there. I've got pictures from his side, and he can see the same thing from whether it's trees or not. The trees would not be there in the wintertime. They're not going to be there in the fall. They're going to shed their leaves. So that's not good. And I can go on and on and on because I got notes, but I'm not going to read them all. I'm done.
I got a question for him.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Are you saying that the land is already being cleared?
The land's already cleared. And what happened was when you moved the trees and the grass, that water is just running. It was running before, but it's already been cleared off. I got pictures of that also with the land cleared. This is here.
I think we've got those.
You got some of those? Okay.
Okay. Perry, did you have something? No, I'm good. All right, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, come forward, please. Name and address, please.
Ron Crutcher, 602 Mays Chapel Road. I'm that house next to the property. Okay? I don't want to hear the noise of the trailers and boats and things coming in. Carrie was talking about the water running down. When the previous owners had it, they were running these ATVs or whatever all times of the night, which was very noisy. It disturbed us. That land was originally my grandfather's land, way, way back. And I'm trying to keep him from getting out of the grave. If that turns into a RV storage, I just don't think it's a good idea to have that in a residential area. It's too noisy. They talked about the traffic, the new subdivision. I just don't think it's good for that area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, come forward, please.
I'm the mother.
Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Sarah Bender Shorter. My question is, I've been there 60-some years or longer, raised my kids there. And now I have grandkids, great-grandkids that come to their yard and they plays. And what's the danger of all of this stuff there? And my baby is out in the yard. I don't know who's across the street. I don't know what might happen to them. And that's where they come have their happy time. My husband died 5 years ago, so they still come have their happy time. I jotted down questions here. Would they want that in their front door? Would they want their children to play in the yard with all this going around? Would they want their grandmother to try to go to sleep at night and hearing all this noise? Because I go to bed, if I'm there, I go to bed at 8:30 or 9. I don't want to hear all of this. And they're saying they don't have they won't have bathrooms and stuff. Who am I to say they might be knocking on my door? You know, and there I am there, you know. And then I have another question. Would they want their grandmother to live like that? This is something. We've lived in that community, like I said, 60-some years, and that's all my neighbors, and they're sitting there. And yes, when they came to my front door, and I said, it's your land. You do what you want to do, but still, I can't stop them, but maybe somebody else can. And that's all I got to say. I just don't want to wake up. I don't want to say, I want to sit on my porch. I want to see boats and all this stuff. And I want to have a happy life the rest of my years, which I know I'm 84, I don't have any more. So why would I want to look at all of that when I've had a good life there all these years, raised my kids there? Now I want this to go on to my great-grandkids and all. I want them to have the land, and I want them to have a happy life. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? If there's no others, then I will close the public comment period in regard to 4163, boat storage for Mr. Lewis and Mr. Nichols. Turning to the board for further discussion or a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion that we deny this case 4163 based on staff recommendations and the testimony that was given here this morning.
Second.
I have a motion and second to deny 4163 based on staff recommendations and testimony given. Discussion?
Hold on 1 second. Sonia and I both said at the same time, second. Which one we're going to have as a
Pick one.
I'll pick me.
Okay. She can have the next one. Any discussion on the motion?
Can I make a statement?
Go ahead.
Yes.
I'm for anybody at all for your dream and to make a living, and I understand that. But when it comes down to me, it's just my opinion, I know Mays Chapel Road. I know where it's at. I know how big it is. I know the people on it. That concerns me for the traffic. It's not that you pursuing your dream or what you want to do or whatever, but it concerns me for the happiness and the welfare of the people surrounding it that live right there at it. If you were out there on 10 acres all by yourself and nobody surrounded you, I'm sure this board would go along with you. But when you start affecting people's lives that live so close to this with that kind of traffic on that small county road, that's the way that we've got to go. It's about the people that live out there in this county. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, I have reservations about any public facility that exists in an A1 zone. And I also have concerns about any public facility that doesn't have any restroom, because people are going to come and go early in the morning, late at night. They're going to want to go to the bathroom, and they're going to go somewhere. And not providing any of those type of facilities is a problem. And I think we as a board have many times denied applications for putting commercial businesses in A1 resident, in A1 or R1 properties.
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, vote aye. Aye. Opposition, vote no. And the ayes have it. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Our next case is also a deferral. It was deferred from the meeting from May. Case 4175, Brian Keith, representing Seas Chapel Methodist Church, requesting a use permissible on appeal for a convenience store. Applicant is asking to waive the sewer requirement and use the existing septic tank. The property is located at 7602 Linwood Road. It's parcel 38 on Whistler County Tax Map 65. The property consists of .67 acres and is zoned A1 agricultural. We'll get staff recommendations now on 4175.
Mr. Chairman, you have stated, or as you have stated, this was deferred from the May 16th meeting. The applicant is requesting to use the property for a convenience store and utilize the existing septic. Convenience stores are a use on appeal in the A1 zone district as listed, provided the property has direct access to an arterial or collector street on the Wilson County Major Thoroughfare Plan. The property in question is accessed off of Linwood Road, which is a major collector. Therefore, given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff can recommend approval of convenience store use. I believe it was deferred to allow the applicant time to collect some information about the capabilities of the existing septic system.
Yes. That it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, who's here to represent 4175?
Brian Keith, K&A Land Surveying, 1012 Sparta Pike. We deferred this from last month after having discussion with this board. One of the suggestions was from this board was whether this septic system that's existing on the property would be sufficient and would be functioning properly. So after leaving that meeting, I decided to perform a septic test on that system, which you should have before you. Hopefully you, the board has read that, and I'll be glad to answer any questions to that. But to summarize that test, the system did function for a period of time that I think is adequate to show that that system does work. And I think with that in mind, I think that would be sufficient evidence that this system will support the request, and that's why we're going to ask this board to grant us that request.
Let me interrupt you just for a second, Brian. Tom, Perry and I were knocking back and forth something a week or two ago. He sent me a snippet out of the zoning ordinance. It has to do with the public sewer requirement and that last exemption item on there.
Yes, sir, it's there, and I neglected to cite that in my consideration the first time, and I was actually just scratching my head. I've left off the last part of my recommendation, which you did here last month, but given that citation in the zoning ordinance, there is an exemption. I'll have to look it up.
Well, that's okay. But there's an exemption for convenience stores in the rural area or A1 zone property or whatnot.
They are allowed to be on septic.
Okay, so.
Right.
That portion of the
request
is, I guess, I don't think the board was at all without merit to see that the existing septic functioned.
Correct.
Yes, that was going to be my name. Whether it has to be public sewer or not, it still has to be functioning.
Right, I think that was
absolutely.
That was a stipulation that we made that absolutely needed to be answered. As a side note, I got a call from one of our commissioners that said, tell me why you've got a guy looking in a hole out on Linwood Road. Evidently, he went by a couple of times and some person was out there monitoring this test, and he had to stop and ask what he was up to, and he said the zoning board made him do it. So, anyway, but the other part of this, I guess, is use on appeal for use in the A1
Right.
zone.
And I mean, because it's a listed use and it is on a major collector, does have reasonable access, we can recommend approval of that use. But I certainly think the concerns or questions about capability of the existing septic system to tolerate the intensity of use with a more daily commercial venture is certainly within your power to consider.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Brian. Go ahead.
No, I was done.
Oh, good. All right. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
I have one. This is for my education, the reason I'm asking. This test you perform, are you a soil scientist?
No, sir.
Okay. Could I perform this test and would it stand up in the court of law or give me a permit or?
No, sir.
Okay.
But I made that perfectly clear last month.
Okay. So this is just one that you, and I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just.
There is no standardized test for what was being requested. I came up with that.
I'm not aware that there is a standardized test by a regulatory authority.
Well, you've got
where
your
I'm getting at.
stamp on here, so what are you?
I'm a registered land surveyor.
Okay.
I put that on there to show you that I'm certifying that I did exactly what that said, because
And you're standing behind this.
that's correct.
Now, the applicant understands that if that septic fails, they'll be responsible for whatever remedial action it takes.
Yes, sir. That is part of this point. Is if that system fails, he has the opportunity to create or to ask for a repair system if it was to fail, which is the same standard that every other septic system is held under in the state.
Agreed. All right, okay. And if this were to be approved, there'll be a site plan submitted to the planning commission.
That's correct.
All right, okay. Anyone else have other
Yeah,
questions?
I'm still going over all this. This may not be right. It may be comparing apples to oranges here. Would this be adequate if you wanted to build a house on it? It says here consistent with 2 to 3 bedroom or whatever. So if your owner or whoever wanted to build a house, 2 or 3 bedroom house, could they do that?
They could use the existing system for a residence.
They could, okay.
You can use the existing system for a residence, yes.
Okay, next quick, I think I pretty well know where this is at, but isn't this out by Linwood at the exit? The interstate?
Yeah.
And there's a dollar store?
Yeah, between the Dollar
Lots
General
going
and
on.
Interstate, yes.
And then there's some kind of auction site up the road or
Yes,
something?
yes.
My point is, I'm pretty protected by A1. I think everybody
Right.
understands that. So I want to make sure that we understand what environment, what's being used up and down that road right there. And also,
Dollar General, this site, and the auction site, and
There is a residence next door to it. These people, several of these people, I mean, there are some residents in the area. But,
the Harlan grocery store, is there something in that now?
yes, they're at the crossroads. They cut hair there at
Okay.
at the crossroads.
and Tom, this is a permitted use on appeal?
It's a listed permissible use on appeal.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure.
One more question about the soils here, because I'm kind of like some of these others trying to understand this. And this, I don't know, may not be a good answer to this. What if you were to have performed this test in January when the ground was saturated? Would you, in your expertise, would you have gotten the same results? I mean, you performed a test last week and it's really dry. So
It's possible I got the same results. It's possible I didn't.
depending on what time of the year and the moisture in the ground.
It's a test at a given time. There's no way.
What I'm getting at is this system more apt to fail come January when the ground's saturated?
Yes.
That,
Or all.
But again, that is any system that's created.
Right, it's fair enough.
The wetter the soil, the more apt the system is to fail. But you can't take from this test that this one will fail in January.
Well, no, I'm not saying it would. I just, yeah, I understand.
I mean, I know what you're saying, but I'm just trying to make it clear that there's no way to test for January until January gets here.
And there's no food going to be served here.
No, sir.
This is not a grill. This is
No,
just
sir.
a store. And so you're not required to have a public
That's correct.
restroom. This is an employee-only restroom.
2 employees, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
I see you're representing the Chapel Methodist Church, so I'm assuming they own this land.
No, sir. When I began this process, the church did own the property.
Okay.
Between that time and now, my client now owns the property.
Okay.
He's the owner of an existing convenience store now.
Okay. So it's not based on whether or not it's okayed for a convenience store. There's already an owner of the property.
Yes.
Not the church.
He chose to go ahead and purchase it because of our lengthy
Okay.
process.
One more question just to verify. Will the restroom be open to the public or not open to the public?
Not open to the public.
The restroom will not be open to the public. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to address 4175 Brian Keith, Sea Chapel Methodist Church? Yes, sir.
I'm Johnny Busey, 138 Opossum Hollow Road, Watertown, Tennessee. And my wife's family's one that owns the property that you're talking about next to it. And on your plat up there, it shows the barn to the back left. But between that barn and between that church right there, there's a creek that runs down through there. All of the land that's on the church up there is uphill, running toward that creek. That creek, during times of the year, will get 2 to 3 feet deep. They've had to change a culvert going underneath the road several times over the years. So this part about whether or not Brian's right about what he did, I'm sure he did the test properly. But we talked to the individuals that owned the church before they bought it. The gentleman told us last night, when they put in a septic tank, first of all, they had to use dynamite to be able to get the septic tank put into the ground. They did not dig fill lines. They only used the septic tank as a way, because the church does not have a daily service. They had it once a week. And as they got older, they had it once a month. And eventually, with the tornadoes coming through and destroying the church again, they decided to put it up for sale. But they did not, Mr. C told us last night, put in any fill lines whatsoever. They only put in the septic tank. And I'm sure what they did was, where the septic tank was on the side of the church right now, the existing septic tank, the one they put in a few days ago or a month ago, is behind the church.
Wait. We got 2 septic tanks out here?
Had one before they added one. Back
I
then,
don't know that they added a tank. I think they just ran a test on what was already existing. They didn't.
where the tank beside the church?
It's behind the church.
Okay, what's the work done behind the church?
We ran water through the existing system.
What's the pipe going out the back of the church?
The pipe coming out of the tank is the field line.
To what?
I'll tell you what,
Water goes into the ground.
if we could, let's address the board.
I'm sorry.
I don't need too much going back and forth between, but do you know there's 2 septic tanks, or you think?
I'm just telling you what the gentleman told us last night.
Okay,
They put in a septic tank.
the church did,
Yes,
long time ago.
long time ago. They added that section on the front of their church, and that's when they put the bathrooms in. It was not initially there when they built the church. They had outhouses sitting on the back of the property. Then they wanted to update the church, so they built that concrete section on the front of the church.
I can go along with all that now, okay. Now,
And then they put the tank right outside the church window where that the sewage would go into that tank. But like he told us, Mr. C told us, they did not dig fill lines.
okay,
So that creek that runs on our property and their property comes off the edge of their property and comes from way up in the woods, from Richardson's area back there where they're doing all the construction and so forth. But anyway, there's so much runoff that comes down through there that the culvert under the main road, Linwood, will back up to the point that that lower section of our property will end up underwater. And that happens quite often in the spring and in the fall. So anything that this system does that supposedly happens when they did the test, I agree right now. I mean, I can't get a stick in the ground right now. And I mean, the ground is exceptionally dry right now. And I'm sure that probably when they did the test, that with all of the shelf rock, this is speculation, I don't know this, that all the shelf rock that's under there, it's going down through there. But there's no fill lines, he said, that they ever put in there.
okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else like to address this case? Yes, ma'am, come forward, please.
Brenda Schaefer. I live at 106 Centerville Road. I am part owner of this 7658 Linwood Road. On June 27th, me and my sister was going to visit my mom, which lives with my older sister. They were putting in a tank, a plastic tank behind the church. And I saw this for myself. So
When would that have been? When?
June 27th.
Of this year? Mm-hmm. Were they putting it in the ground, or were they using it to haul water and dump water in?
They dug a hole and put it in the ground. And I do have a picture on my phone of that, if need be.
Testimony's good enough.
Okay.
All right.
And, of course, my sister was with me, and she seen the tank too. So therefore, they did not, the tank that was evidently the tank that Mr. C put in didn't work. So they was putting an additional tank, plastic tank, which you can do now. They were putting it in on the 27th.
Got you. Okay, thank you.
you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Okay,
I think he wants to speak.
I don't doubt it. Mr. Key, tell us about this additional tank.
So the tank that they witnessed on the 27th, as you can see from my statement, that's when we ran the test. That tank was a 330-gallon tank from my house that I hauled water up there to run the test with. It's set just above the septic tank, which is existing, which we had uncovered the tank and the field lines, had those inspected by the state, which I presented last month as a septic inspection, which was not sufficient for the.
I remember you being here and whatnot. When you were here before, and it's normal that the state would go out and they would make someone uncover the field lines.
And that's what I did.
And that happened.
Yes, sir.
How much field line did they uncover?
We uncovered 15 feet.
I mean, that's the state was there and observed that.
Yes. I have a
In the
septic.
past, they don't. When I've had them do this in the past, they came out. We had to dig around, find evidence of the line. They didn't make us uncover the whole thing, but they made us uncover different pieces and parts. Some
Right, that's correct.
It was there.
There was not a failure.
Yeah.
And that's, the last time you were here, that was what didn't mean a lot to
Right.
board, because they said there was not a failure. Well, hadn't been used in years.
That's right. And and if you notice on my statement, I had to add water to the tank to get it full enough to access the field line because it had drained down. Yes.
Well, why are they, I know I'm a little confused here. Why are they stating that there is no field lines? He's saying there's 15 feet of field lines.
He's saying they-
Is there no documentation?
That's correct. There's no documentation. This is an undocumented system.
Way back when, it was not uncommon that septics were put in without documentation. There may not have been a permit pulled. They may have lost the records. Who knows? When you get back in the,
If I were guessing, I'd say probably wasn't a permit pulled. I don't know that.
That's probably correct.
way back when, a lot of things got done without proper permitting. When you get back, especially past the 80s, you lose a lot of documentation. We run into that from time to time. But so the tank that these people saw y'all using
was a plastic tank.
Was a plastic tank used to bring the bulk water in for the septic test.
That's correct.
And the state had been out there previously, as you testified in your last visit, and verified the field lines did exist.
That's correct.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to say to clear up other testimony?
I would like to address the drainage issue, and I know that's always an issue. I can't address that at this particular time. That would be addressed on a site plan. What we're here for today is to get the approval to move forward with a site plan, which would then have to address drainage issues on this site and how it would affect adjoining properties. That would be done by engineering. I'm sure all of you are familiar with
So just to be clear, so everybody is clear on what we're doing here, this application is for the use only. If it is approved, they must go to the Planning Commission and comply with all of the Planning Commission guidelines, landscaping, parking, drainage, the flow of the creek. They have to comply with all that at the next level. If they cannot comply, then they either have to return here for a variance on the requirement or not move forward. So, go ahead.
I'm just here for any questions that.
One question. The tank that we're referring to that you brought on property for the testing, is it still there?
No, sir.
Okay.
And you're testifying it was never put in the ground, buried in the ground, or anything?
I've never dug a hole out there to bury a tank.
Okay.
I uncovered the existing tank.
Right, well, right. We understand that.
And I uncovered the existing field lines, but that is all I've ever done out there.
Anybody else?
Nobody else that I'm aware of dug any holes.
Okay. Thank you. Right.
My name is Jason Goolsby, 1225 Old Hunters Point Pike. I'm the realtor for the Neal family. And that being said, we, of course, it's their desire to sell this property that adjoins next door. You know, my questions would be, they are concerned with any septic issues adversely affecting their property and its value. So, and I don't know the answer to these questions, but I have seen Miss Murphy provided me with a packet yesterday, and I have seen the plans for the proposed convenience store, 3,000 square feet on the back of the property with 18 parking spots in front. So my question would be, if this septic system fails, where does the repair go? And that might not be something that we address on this level. That might be something at the next level they have to address. But I know from residential standpoints, you have to have a lot more than 15 feet of field line. So 15 feet, I'm correct in that, Mr. Keith?
You are correct.
Okay. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to misrepresent anything or be dishonest. So 15 feet's not a lot. And where does the repair go? I believe in residential, at least in current standards here in Wilkes County, you have to have not only field lines, but then you have to have a reserve spot.
You have to have duplicates, yes.
You have to have a duplicate.
Dealing with that.
But you see where I'm coming from.
Yes.
Yeah, but that is they want to be, they're good people. They want to be good neighbors. They want to honor people's property rights, but they also are concerned about their property rights, and that would be our concern. If this septic system fails, where does that repair go? And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Keith, how do you develop a site plan if you don't know where the field lines actually are? You know there's 15 feet, but are there more? And if they do fail, where's the repair go?
Can you run a camera down?
I suppose you could.
I don't know. I'm not in that line of work, but I mean.
So initially we uncovered, in order to get a septic inspection, you have to establish a viable tank and some length of field line. I only went to the 15 feet because that's all as far as I need to go to establish that line attached to that tank, and I just dug 15 foot and I stopped. The line kept going. I don't know how long it is. I would have to actually uncover the entire line to find out how long it is, because nobody knows.
But again,
if the system
develop the site,
I'm getting there. So if the system was to fail, we are allowing the area in the back to where we could install new field lines.
Will it perk? Have you had it perk?
It will not perk. So the whole reason we can't put in a brand new system is because we don't have adequate soils by state standards to install a new septic system. But we do have adequate depth to do a repair.
So there's two different requirements from the state for a new one and a repair.
That's correct. So we can't install a new system under today's regulations.
But you can repair.
But I can repair the system with the area that is on that property. I can install as many linear feet of line as as we need or can put in. We could fill the whole backside up with field lines if necessary to make the system function properly. That's if the system fails at all. There's no guarantees either way. The system may work just fine. We're only talking on average, and I used their water usage from the store that the client previously has now, and an additional store that is very similar. I use their water usage, and it's somewhere around 60 to 70 gallons a day. If you'll look, I more than doubled that on one day, running it the 10-hour period that I ran. So I not only covered what the average seems to be, plus I doubled that just to ensure that it was a little above standard is what I hoped for.
Okay.
And to the point to the failure, I checked downhill for water seepage towards the creek that's been mentioned. I checked for water after the test was run. I checked for water down there, and we found no water. So it functioned during those 2 days during that period of time. That's all I can speak to. Anything else would just be guesswork.
Okay, and I know this is dragging on, but for these people that own land and live out there, I mean, whether or not you have a failure is a big deal. So, and I live out that area, and so what if we approve all this, it all goes in 6 months or a year from now? What if there is a failure? So, I mean, does that take 6 months to get it fixed, or are they?
Oh, sir.
I mean,
that would be.
And I say that there is and there was a failure at the BP, and that's a totally different lot. But they dealt with that for years up there, and they had a failure up there. Of course, the tornado blew that building away, and it's no longer there. But I just for the sake of these people in the whole community, I mean, nobody can tolerate raw sewage on the ground.
I agree.
So if there's a failure, talk us through that time frame. Somebody gonna be out there and have it fixed in a week, 2 weeks? You're gonna shut the store down? What? Talk us through that.
So in the event of a failure, a repair permit would be issued immediately by the state, and then a contractor, septic installer would then add field lines to that property. And typically, on a repair, typically what you'll do is you'll just install all the field lines you can. You don't have to. It's basically owner's option. But if you just put in a few, say you put in 100 foot and it fails again, you're going to be right back out there putting in more. So you just put in all you can, typically in a failure situation.
I was wondering, why didn't you get a soil scientist involved to monitor the test and be involved and present all this information?
Okay, so honestly, I don't think that would have made a difference.
But you started, if there's one there and somebody sold you that land, you more than likely could not get a sewer permit. Is that correct? That land.
If there was not an existing system on the property, I could not put it, that's correct.
That's where I have a problem. Even though there's one there, if you started over, you could not get a permit because the soil will not perk.
But we're not starting over.
I know, that's just hypothetical, but
I know, but
my point.
I do see your point, but that's not where we're at. We have an existing system.
But you're still going to dig field lines, repairs on land.
If necessary. Well, you're saying it won't perk. That's not true. That's the wrong term. You're saying it won't perk. It will not pass the regulations for the state.
Same difference.
No, it's not, sir.
Whoa, guys.
It's not the same difference. Percolation, that soil does perk because.
We got two different standards we're dealing with. One, and I agree 100%, Kerry, what you're saying. That there's no way in the world this would pass the current standards.
Yes.
At all. But what Brian is saying, and he's also correct, those aren't the standards we're dealing with.
Correct.
He's dealing with an existing, old, uncharted septic standard, which what he's told us, I believe from my experience, to be
last set of standards.
I think they're very, very dangerous. Yeah. But I don't know that there's a lot of difference between a 2-employee store and a 4-bedroom house. That's many of those that are sitting around in the same condition. But okay. But just so we're clear, we are dealing with two standards. We're not actually dealing with them, but there are two standards out there. One standard's for new construction and one standard's for existing systems.
Correct.
So, okay.
But let me just say real quick, you can't, to say that soil will not perk is incorrect. It will take some amount of water. All soil will. It just doesn't meet the regulations for a new septic system, which they are very high standards, but that's the standards that we have. So to say that soil just will not percolate water or accept any water is incorrect.
But it won't pass the test.
Today's standards, it will not pass. It would have passed standards in the past, but
we're in the present. So, but anyway,
we are.
And just for one more clarification, the ordinance requires a public sewer system for commercial uses with exceptions, and one of those exceptions would be, as listed, Tom, would be commercial uses in permitted commercial uses in A1 zone.
It says these regulations will not affect those commercial uses as are allowed on appeal within an A1 agricultural zoning district. So it's specifically.
He does not need a variance from the.
No, he does not. That was something that was an oversight on staff's part. My apologies, but with the original request that we asked him to add to his application.
I think that's very important to all us to realize that he does not need an exception from that regulation.
Mm-hmm.
So the only question then and we asked him to do this test just as reasonable due diligence. Mm-hmm. But the only thing he needs from us is a yes or no on the use.
On appeal.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And your recommendation was?
My recommendation on that is that it can be approved. We can recommend approval because it meets the criterion. It's an A1 zone. It's a listed use permissible on appeal as, I believe, convenience market. And the only condition that's listed in the use on appeal listing is that convenience markets allowed using this provision must be located with direct access to an arterial or collector on the Wilson County Major Thoroughfare Plan. And our current thoroughfare plan calls this out, it calls Linwood Road out as a major collector or minor collector.
Agree with the standards, and I don't agree with what the ordinance says. I didn't realize that last item was on there for exemptions, and I don't necessarily agree with that. But it's the hand we've been dealt, so to speak.
Yes, sir.
One more quick thing that hasn't been brought up is the lot size an issue, or is it just grandfathered in, obviously?
I believe it would be grandfathered in. I mean, you can consider it.
I mean, but he's got to meet the site plan requirements when he gets to the planning commission. So if he can't get a retention pond, if he can't get stormwater addressed, if he can't get all the things done that he has to get done, it doesn't work.
Right. That's correct.
Now, would he have to come back here for variances, or does the planning commission?
He would have to, if he's asking for variances from those stormwater requirements, for instance, or from those site plan requirements, he'd have to come back here.
Yeah, okay. Got you. Anything else?
Not for me, sir.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir, do you have something else, new evidence, new?
First of all, we never got a letter the first time y'all had this meeting. We didn't get a letter, so we weren't aware of all this that y'all are discussing. The problem I see is back to the fact it's still uphill and water will run downhill. And when the gas station used to be open, they had to pump their septic tank 3 times a week because they didn't have adequate fill lines up there. And of course, they were open to the public. So they did have more use than 2 people. I understand that. But this tank, I still don't understand exactly, Brian, where the white pipe coming out of the back of the church.
Sir, let me stop you. Excuse me, folks. Can we please sit down?
Okay.
Let's sit down. Don't interrupt the staff. Don't be up here talking to people while I'm trying to hold the meeting. Let's everybody settle down. There are, it's going to be hard for me to tell you what I'm about to tell you because you're a very nice fellow and y'all are real nice people. There is a limited scope of what this board is really here to do this morning.
Okay.
Stormwater is a legitimate issue, but that's handled at this planning commission level.
Okay.
You know, they would be, if he can't meet stormwater requirements, then that's something they're going to have to deal with. The same thing with parking and runoff and stormwater. All that's planning commission stuff, right? The ordinance says, and I don't agree with it in this case, but the ordinance says that he doesn't have to have a commercial sewer requirement met for a convenience store, I'm paraphrasing, in an A1 district. He doesn't have to do that. If he were in another zone, if he were in a I1 or a C1 or a C4, all those commercial industrial zones, he would have to meet a commercial sewer standard. But the ordinance allows a convenience store in an A1 district not to meet a commercial sewer standard. So what he's proposing is not anything we're not here to tell him whether he can do that or not. So where the septic tank is or is not, or where the fill lines are or not, is not something we can really judge, although we did stipulate when he was here before that he go out and uncover this tank and put it through some kind of stress test because we thought that was reasonable, and he agreed to do it. The only thing we're here this morning to decide is whether a use for a convenience store is appropriate on that lot based on the requirements of the ordinance. And the staff tells us in their recommendations that it is, that they would have to say yes.
And that 15-foot fill line is sufficient.
We're not, we're not here to investigate his.
We have sworn testimony from him that the system will work, and if it doesn't work, that they've got a backup plan. That's all we can do. I mean, we've got sworn testimony from him under oath. And that's all we can do. If they've done a test and it passed it, And if it does fail, I think I tried to really be clear on that. If it does fail, they've got a backup plan to make it work, because I do live in that area as well. I drive through there all the time, and,
And that's why we've got the court recorder here. All this goes in the record, and if we need to, we can come back and get a certified copy of all the conversation.
Can I ask one thing?
Absolutely.
The state inspected the field lines?
That
Do
is
they have a
testimony.
report for
They
that?
did submit a report when they were here in May, yes.
Okay, see, we didn't get that. We weren't notified about the earlier meeting.
Well,
Okay, it's okay. Thank you.
the law says we have to, what the staff does is
you
give
should have been notified as
adequate-
adjoining property owners.
adequate public notice.
The letter may have got lost. I mean, who knows? But I mean, normally the staff notifies adjoining property owners, and just like you got notified the second time, you should have been notified the first time. But that mistakes happen.
But that's not, those letters of notification are not a requirement. They are a courtesy.
Right.
Okay, so back to what we can actually consider. Is anyone else, we wish to give any new testimony? And if not, I will close the public hearing period on this particular case. Turning to the board for a motion or further discussion. We're looking at 2175 Brian Keith and C Chapel Methodist Church. There's no discussion. Do I hear a motion? Hear a motion, people. We have to do one thing or the other. We have to pass it or fail it.
Mr. Chairman, somewhat hesitantly, I make a motion that we will approve this based on the staff recommendations, based on the testimony that Brian has given here today, and the written paper we have here where he's done the test, and the deal of if we have a failure, it will be taken care of with the septic. So
Have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Let me offer an amendment.
Please do.
We've gotten some of these things in the past that didn't comply with some of this, but I want to make an amendment that this particular site plan will meet commercial standards. Tom, is that an appropriate amendment?
Yes, sir, with I suppose the exception of the public sewer requirement.
With
Yeah,
the noted exception. But we are not, this is not a situation where it's in the A1 zone, there are no commercial standards. We are applying commercial site work standards by this approval.
Yes, sir.
Agreed?
yes, I'll accept that. Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion or any discussion on the motion as amended? If not, all in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no. The ayes have it. Thank y'all for coming. Okay, we are, it's 10:30. We've been in session for an hour and a half. I'm gonna call a 5-10-minute recess, and we'll come right back then and deal with the other 4 or 5 cases. If I can have everyone's attention again, please, we'll call the meeting back to order. Try to move through the rest of our agenda. Our next case is case 4186, Ronald Brewer, requesting a variance of 10 feet from the easement width requirement of 30 feet. The property became of record in 1994 with a 20-foot easement. The variance will allow the applicant to receive a pool permit along with applying for any other permits that are needed. The property is located at 8010 Old Corinth Road, parcel 24.03 on Wilson County Tax Map 120. The property consists of 5 acres and is zoned R1 residential. We'll get staff recommendations now on 4186. Where is staff?
Still on break.
Well, I tell you what,
read 'em.
I'll read them. I'm not waiting on him. Applicant is requesting a variance of 10 feet from the easement width requirement of 30 feet. The property became of record 1994 with an easement of 20 foot. Without a recorded plat. The easement, however, dates back prior to 1974. Many of the surrounding properties on this road have been granted similar variances in the past, and the property was also granted a building permit for the existing home in 1995. Therefore, staff can recommend approval. Who's here to represent 4186? Yes, sir. Forward, please. Is Old Corinth Road the one down by the church?
It's Old Corinth Church Road.
Okay.
Yes, it actually comes out in Rutherford County at Corinth Church of Christ.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know the place. Yeah. Give us your name and address, please.
My name's Ron Brewer, 8010 Old Corinth Church Road.
And what would you like to tell the board, sir?
I just like to have a swimming pool put in behind my house.
That makes sense. Does the board have any questions for the applicant? No. If not, do I have anyone else here wish to address 4186 Brewer? If not, I'll close the public comment period. Thank you for coming. And turning to the board for a motion or additional discussion.
I'll make a motion that we approve based on staff recommendation.
Have a motion to approve based on staff recommendations. Do I have a second? Have a motion and a second. It's down your neck of the woods, isn't it, Sonia? Yeah. It's got a motion and a second. Any discussion? There are none. All in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no, and the ayes have it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our next case is case 4187. Cheryl Roach requesting a variance for property that doesn't have a recorded plat. The property became of record in 1996. The variance will allow the applicants to receive a permit for a detached garage along with other permits if needed. The property is located at 1643 Rutledge Lane, parcel 6.22 on Wilson County Tax Map 59. The property consists of 1.38 acres and is zoned R1 residential. Is staff back? Okay, we get
Yes.
staff recommendation now on 4187.
The applicants are requesting a variance for property that doesn't have a recorded plat. This is not an older lot of record as the property was created in 1996. Staff has no way of recommending approval of a variance without a recorded plat. Staff will note that if approval is granted, an updated plat should be created for the property and recorded, making it a legal tract of record. Staff will also note that this property has had an established residence since the mid-1990s, so permits or construction occurred at that time by some means.
Okay, who's here to represent 4187 Roach? Yes, name and address, please.
Cheryl Roach, 1643 Rutledge Lane, Lebanon.
Okay, what would you like to tell the board, if anything?
Since I drew that map, we have had a survey by Crockett Surveying, and I don't have the plot map, but the dimensions on that drawing have changed because we weren't sure where the property lines were. We were just guessing. So they're accurate on my new paper. It's, instead of the back being whatever it was, it's 50. From the house to the garage would be 60 feet. And from the side, instead of 15, it's 21 feet. So we actually had more property than we thought we did.
Okay, so what's the actual distance from the back property line to the back of the garage?
50 feet.
50 feet. And what is the distance from the side property line to the edge of the garage, the closest point there?
21 feet.
21 feet, okay. All right, and
then-
the distance between the two structures, do you know what that is?
60 feet.
60 feet. Tom, based on what she's telling us, I don't think she needs any setback variances.
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So you've got a survey done, and y'all are going to have a recorded plat.
We have not heard from Mr. Crockett yet on if that was available or ready, or he just came and restaked it because the survey had been done before. And there was discrepancy of where those lines were by the neighbor behind us. but I can get that, yes.
Okay. Questions from the board for the applicant?
I just got one question. It doesn't seem to be a recorded plat. When did you move into the home?
We haven't moved in. We're remodeling. We bought it May 10th.
This year?
Yes.
What is she actually needing from the board?
A variance to build on a non-legal tract of record.
They want to do an attached garage and they can't get a
Right.
permit.
But they're not needing any other variance, but they're needing.
Not to my knowledge.
When you say build an accessory because there is an existing house already.
Yes.
Detached garage is what the thing.
Okay, I got you.
Okay. If the board, does the board have any more questions?
No.
Okay. Anyone else here wish to address 4187 Roach? Okay. If not, you need a plat.
Okay.
You need a plat, not only for this reason, but for many reasons that will protect you in the future. So I'm gonna make a motion that we approve your request, but I'm gonna stipulate that within 12 months you get a plat and get it recorded.
Okay.
Now, that should not hold up this application, Karen. Okay? I'm making getting a plat within 12 months a stipulation or part of this motion, but I don't intend for her to be held up on her permit for the garage. You know?
I do need to add something to the record.
Okay.
In regards to a plat.
Let me get a second, excuse me.
I'll second it.
Okay, Howard second it. Now go ahead.
Hold on, let me write that. In regards to a plat, when there's a lot that's less than 5 acres that became of record like this one did in 96 and didn't go through the proper procedures for going through the planning commission to be approved. If she goes back now to get a plat, the soils office, the septic office requires a duplicate area. So if Lori will not sign, Lori with the state of Tennessee septic, she will not sign off on a plat that does not have a duplicate area.
What do we do to remedy that?
The only real solution I have, and I was going to bring it up too, that she beat me to the punch, would be that in the alternative, if it's found that they cannot find duplicate soils on the property, that they at the very least have to record a boundary survey, because that way they've at least got it on record.
Well, let me withdraw my motion.
Okay.
And make it again. I move that we approve 4187 with the stipulation that in the next 12 months, you either get a recorded plat or a recorded boundary survey. We would very much recommend that you get a plat, but if that doesn't work, you can record your survey. I think that will help you out immensely in the future.
Well, we have a septic tank.
Let me, you second, Howard?
Yeah,
Do you have something you want to add?
We do have a septic system. It has been inspected. It works. It's there.
Right.
So if you don't get a plat, you could go, at least go with the survey. Any other discussion by the board?
Who made the second, Blades?
Yes.
Mr. Blades? If there is no discussion, all in favor of the motion, vote aye. Aye. Opposition, vote no. And the ayes have it. All right, thank you. Our next case is case 4188. James Sherrill is requesting to renew approval for towing and wrecker service. The board approved the towing and wrecker service on April the 20th, 2018 for a period of 5 years with the stipulation at the end of 5 years the property must be cleaned up. The property is located at 475 Quarry Road, parcel 54.05 on Wilson County Tax Map 55. The property consists of 9.2 acres and is zoned R1 as residential. We get staff recommendations on 4188.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting to renew approval for a towing and wrecker service. The board did approve the existing towing and wrecker service on April 20th, 2018, which I believe had come in on a zoning violation. for a period of 5 years with the stipulation that at the end of 5 years, the property must be cleaned up. At the time of the initial approval, the use had been operating on this parcel for a number of years and was not visible from the public road. However, it's my recollection that they could not prove usage beyond 1974, which would have constituted a grandfathered nonconforming use. I think they had records for business licensure back to 1980, somewhere thereabouts. In 2018, the applicant stated that he was in the process of removing some of his inventory and was considering terminating the business in the next couple of years. On-site review, a few of the cars on the property were visible from the public road, and the applicant told staff that he wished to continue the business on the property. The business plan submitted with the request states that most cars are picked up within 3 days, but some do remain on the property for up to 45 days when they're not claimed. The use would be allowed in the I-1 or I-2 heavy industrial or light industrial, light industrial or heavy industrial districts within county zoning, typically. Since the use is not a use allowed or a use permissible on appeal in the R1 zone district, staff cannot recommend approval.
Okay, who's here to represent 4188? Cheryl. Name and address, please, sir.
James Sherrill, 475 Quarry Road.
Anything you'd like to tell us, Mr. Sherrill?
Well, I've been in business since 1993, and I've got nobody complaining about where I'm at. All my neighbors love me because I do their towing. And I talked to Commissioner Smith. He recommends highly that I stay there. And like I said, I've had no problems. And me and Hamlin are the only two that's in the west end of the county. It was one of the reasons I wanted to stay.
I did hear from Commissioner Smith yesterday afternoon, and he did express some regret that our recommendation was negative, predominantly from the standpoint that he said to his knowledge, the gentleman had been towing there the better part of his life, if not all of it, and probably mine too, from that location. And he was a neighbor, and he was not aware of any complaints or concerns from other neighbors or himself.
Just come back to the board on a complaint or just the time limit?
Just a time limit. It was actually expired last year. We picked it up this year to look at from the files. From 2018, it would have expired, I think, 23, based on your previous motion.
Okay. Do you, in the previous meeting 5-6 years ago, did we approve the business and just tell him he had to clean it up, or did we say it had to be gone in 5 years?
I do not have the record in front of me, but my recollection is that you approved operations for a continued 5 years with the understanding that he would be ramping down and shutting down the business at the end of that 5-year period.
Gotcha.
I would, but with only two of us there, I can't afford to, really.
But no, you did tell us you'd be out of business.
I know what I told you.
Cleaned up and everything be spick and span.
But it sort of twisted around when...
He did have 2 sons, I believe, with him the last time he appeared.
Yeah.
In talking with him on site, he is a single operator at this point. His sons, I believe, one of them may be doing work with another wrecker service, and the other one is doing something else, is what he told me. So it's just him operating at this point.
Got you. Okay. The board have questions for Mr. Sherrill?
I got one question.
Go right ahead.
I know things are overlooked, but why didn't you come here like last year and ask for an extension of some kind?
Didn't really realize it'd run out that quick.
Okay. All right. I understand.
When did you say you started down there? roughly 90 what?
93.
90, okay. You even got a business license, okay.
Yeah.
How many, I think it says you tow them in and they sit there so long and then they get gone.
Yes.
On an average, or how many vehicles are on site? I know it varies, but
20, 25, and most of them will be gone within 1 to 3 days.
right. But then,
they're
but there's 20 to 25 more coming in as those are leaving. I guess.
We'll see. Some of them I'm getting rid of because I had to file liens on the ones that they don't pick up.
Right.
And it takes a little time to do that, but I got about 7 or 8 right now that's fixing to go.
Right. But I'm just saying it's an ongoing
Yeah.
deal. So as cars leave, new ones
But
come in. Yes.
You do have the ability to say no. I mean, and say, well, I just got too many here. I'm not going to come tow you. Is that right?
I can, but it wouldn't look good on my part. And I'm pretty sure Hamlin's be on top of me if I start doing that.
Who would?
Hamlin's,
Oh, I'm not worried about him.
we're the only two that's in that zone down there.
Yeah.
His home is in the front, and there's a gate with a back field that he uses predominantly for the storage of the vehicles.
Well, and I don't know, I'm looking here, it appears they're just kind of scattered up and down a driveway. Is that?
Well, the white,
That's part of them.
that's behind the gate, Perry. If you look, you see the white roofs, those are his house. And the gate's just beyond the house. There's a little turnout there. And then you go around that drive, and that's sort of where he's got them stored.
The rear part.
Yeah. And that aerial, I believe, is from 2020. So.
You're a problem.
Am I?
For me, it is. It's a problem. I don't mean that ugly. I'm just kidding with you,
Just
but
want to stay there for a while.
I understand.
Just 5 more years, right?
5, maybe less than that.
We have these things, and we got good people, and they want to work, and I want them to have the opportunity to work. I think everybody should be able to work as long as they want to.
Yep.
But sometimes things get out of hand.
Right there.
I
And
agree.
yeah. All right. Well, if the board have any more questions for Mr. Sheriff? Okay.
Are any of these cars, would you consider junk that need to be disposed of?
Yes, it's what I'm working on now too. Haul them to the scrapyard. But see, I have to do the lien on them in order for me to get rid of them. Like I said, it takes sometimes up to 45 days to get all this done.
And how many did you say you had on site at any given time?
Not including the ones I'm doing the liens on, probably about 20.
And the ones with the liens would be how many?
Probably about 15 to 20.
Really? Yeah. That
Well,
you
I
got?
just asked that, and I thought you told me about 25 cars were on site.
Well,
Now 20 and 20 makes about 40 on site.
yeah, but to what I was talking about, the ones that
What's what? I asked you how many
okay.
cars were on
There's
site.
about 40 cars on them.
I just want to be clear on that.
Like I said, I'm fixing to ship several of them out.
I don't know, I'm not classifying your business as a junkyard, but if you're not careful, that's what it's gonna
But
be.
it could be, yes, sir. I agree with you.
Okay, then I'd encourage you to keep it cleaned up.
Yeah.
Well, if they was organized, and in a row and looked a little more tidy, I don't know. That doesn't do anything but just sort of look better. It doesn't really help the ordinance part of things, But I guess when they come in, you put them where you can put them, and when they go out, there's a hole there.
Yes,
So
sir.
I got a question.
go right ahead.
Are you asking for any specific time? I mean, the board gave you 5 years, it's been 6. What are you asking for? An open end record service forever?
Well, whatever I can get.
If it's open end, it'd stay with the property, and it would go to a new operator. Am I not right, Mr. Chairman?
If you, unless you stipulate otherwise, it's automatically open-ended.
And it would be there forever?
Yes.
Could possibly.
And that's why we put a stipulation. I think, if I remember right, the last time Mr. Sherrill was here, he was going to wind down in a couple, 3 years, he thought, and be done with
Early
it.
retirement.
Okay, wait,
And that's not what happened.
believe me.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anyone else here wishes to speak to 4188 Sherrill? Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
Morning. My name is Dale McCullough. I live at 540 Quay Road, and I've been back there. My wife and I have been married for many years, and her family was there for almost 40, 50 years, and we've never had a problem with Mr. Sherrill. He's a good neighbor. He doesn't make, this business doesn't create a lot of noise, and from the street view, it doesn't look bad. It's never been an eyesore. Keeps the front of the property clean, and it's good. It's a service for the community, you know, getting those wrecked cars pulled in that the troopers need. And so we've never had any problems at all with that business being there. He doesn't drive recklessly going in and out. So he's a good neighbor, good citizen. That's all.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay. If there isn't, I'll close the public comment on 4188 Sherrill and turn to the board for a motion or further discussion.
Should there be something here about monitoring the condition of the property, the number of cars? Do we want to look at that? 'Cause, I mean, that is residential area, and it's operating now close to a junkyard.
That's,
So I have
true.
issues with that.
And you know, I don't speak to people about these cases once they've been filed, but sometimes people call and I tell them, I'm not going to speak to it, but you know, well, I just wanted to tell you. I've had 2 phone calls from folks that say, we just want to tell you, Mr. Sherrill's just the finest fella in the world. We want to support him. And I don't doubt that at all. But I also have to agree with what you said, that there's a limit to what needs to be done. And I personally am thinking if there's a motion to approve, we need to put another time frame on it, because I don't want this being something that goes on forever.
Right.
And we also probably need to limit the number of cars.
Exactly. And I understand where you're at, and I respect that, but we have to respect the residents of the area and what R1 means, and it doesn't mean a junkyard.
I'm going to move that we approve 4188 Mr. Sherrill for another 5 years. And I'm going to say that our approval is based on him limiting the number of cars on site to 30. And I don't know who will count those. It won't be me. But, I would also like for you to keep them out of the public view.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And that's my motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion, and a second. Now discussion.
Would you want the cars, and I don't know, to be placed in an orderly fashion?
Well, I thought about that, but I'm thinking if he's pulling them to leave
Okay.
and filling slots, I don't know.
Right. Well, take one out and you bring another one in, you fill that slot up. I don't know. I'm just saying.
But
like you said, who's gonna police that anyway?
Forwards from the other side of that driveway in the last second.
so, 5 years, 30 cars, shielded from public view. And they tell me you can't. I don't even know where it is. I mean, I know where that area is, but I can't see it. So.
Yes, so I could say that I can back up this testimony.
Okay, so that's my motion. Did I get a second?
Yes, I
Okay,
second.
Perry seconded. Okay, discussion by the board. If not, all in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no. The ayes have it. Thank you.
I will commend you for being a good neighbor to everybody down there.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good to see you.
See you.
Have a good day, sir. Thank you. Have a good day.
Our next case is case 4189, Affordable Building Concepts. On behalf of Carolyn Pierce, is requesting a variance from the road frontage requirement of 50 feet. The property does not have road frontage and became a record prior to July 1974. The variance will allow the property owner to build a detached garage along with applying for other permits if needed. The property is located at 8230 Central Pike and is parcel 44 on Wilson County Tax Map 96. The property consists of 4.5 acres and is zoned R1 residential. We get staff recommendations now on 4189.
The applicant is requesting a variance from the road frontage requirement of 50 feet. This is an older lot of record, with the lot being created prior to July 10th, 1974. Therefore, given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff can recommend approval.
Okay, who's here to represent 4189? Yes, sir. Anything that you'd like to tell the board, sir?
Not really.
Excuse me, name and address, please.
Michael Pierce, 307 Belvis Court, Franklin, Tennessee.
And does the board have any questions for the applicant? Interestingly enough, Commissioner Weathers had mentioned this one to me the other day, and she was kind enough to share with me something I didn't know. It was before my time or before my recollection that that Mount Jewett Road, or the road that became Mount Jewett Road, used to run in front of this property or to the side of it. And then years later, at some point, they straightened out the curve and connected South Mount Jewett Road to whatever road that was and took the curve out. So really, even if they weren't an ancient lot, they would probably be due a variance because the government,
Unmaintained right of way? Yeah.
switched the road around on them. So anyway,
And
a little bit of old history.
if this was approved, you couldn't subdivide it. It always had to remain that track, correct?
Say that again?
It would always have to remain that one track.
In its current,
Subdivided into two because of the road frontage, correct?
in its current format, I believe that would be true.
I got a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
So the intention, there is a house on the property.
Yes.
Okay. And you live there?
It's my grandmother's land. Her sister lives in that house.
Okay. And the intentions are to build a detached garage,
That's
I
for
guess.
storage, yeah.
A storage. Would that be right on it? And it looks like it's 40 feet off the property line?
So if you look, it's going to be towards about 80 feet off that last side, bottom side right there of the property line, going further down Mount Juliet Road.
And what's the intentions on the rest of the property?
We have no plans as of right now.
But you have a statement in here about necessary permits at a later time if you need them.
Correct.
I think that's standard wording from the permit office.
That's what I did, in case they wanted to build something else on the property that pertained to an accessory structure with the residents.
Okay, good deal. Board have any more questions for the applicant? Right. Anyone else here wish to address, yes, sir?
I got one
Go ahead.
more thing. I think in the past, what we've done, when we've okayed a storage like this, and that doesn't mean you can store anything outside of it.
Correct.
Everything has to be inside the building. And what are you planning on storing?
We just have some stuff from when they moved their old house. It's not much, just old furniture, a couple computers, and just some old tools from their house.
Okay. So the land, as far as you know, the land where it is today is going to remain vacant?
Correct.
Other than the house is on?
Correct, as of right now.
Okay.
I don't know what they'll do in the future.
All right.
Okay. Anyone else here wish to address 4189? If not, we'll close the public comment period and turn to the board for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve this upon staff recommendation.
I have a motion to approve 4189 based on staff recommendations, and I will second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no. And the ayes have it. Thank you, sir. And we're ready for 4190. Martin Aguilar is requesting to use property for short-term rental. Property is located at 8469 Saundersville Road, Track 2, Howell property, parcel 38.01 on Wilson County Tax Map 32. The property consists of 5.2 acres and is zoned R1 residential. We get staff recommendations on 4190.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting to use the property for a short-term rental. Staff have received a business plan stating how the applicant considers using the property. If the use is granted, staff recommends that the business plan be made a part of the approval and put the applicant on notice that if they are to add any sort of structure or expansion to the use of the property, they will have to come back before the board for a plot plan submittal and revised business plan approval, and that's specific to the short-term rental use. That requirement would be. The business plan states that the desired number of guests allowed per stay is 14, and the home has 6 bedrooms. The septic records for the property state that the home was converted from a 4 to a 5-bedroom home in 2008. And at the same time, at the time of the septic inspection, they were unable to locate the original septic records and clarify what the septic system was actually perked for. Typically, the board will allow 2 guests per bedroom, meaning the maximum number of guests allowed for this property would be 12. The business plan does not state who the caretakers are or where they are located. The Airbnb short-term rentals are a use principle on appeal in the A1 zone district. Given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff can recommend approval, and if you do choose to approve the request, the applicant will have to make their contact information available to WEMA, the building inspector, and the county sheriff's office, and the applicant will also need to prove that they or the caretaker live within 10 miles of the property before the house can function as a short-term rental. One other piece of information that I was made aware of this morning, there is a advertisement for this home that refers to it as having, I'm trying to look here, 6 bedrooms and 7 beds with 3 baths and 14 guests. So it's a little bit different. The 14 guests is the same as what they requested. The 6 bedrooms and 7 beds are a little bit out of keeping with the 5-bedroom approval, but.
How did you come up, a while ago you said they would have to actually comply with 12 or the maximum occupancy?
That would have been based off of their request and having the 6 bedrooms.
You don't know, though, what the septic was originally approved for?
There is some question about that. It appears it was converted from a 4 to a 5-bedroom home in 2008, according to septic records.
According to septic?
Yeah, so that would be 10.
That would be 10.
Right.
Got you.
I don't know that it makes any difference, but is it R1 or A1? Because the request is R1, and I think your comments say something about A1. Not that that really matters, but.
Karen, I'm going to need some help on that one. R1. It's R1. It's in the west end of the county.
Okay, right. That's.
Gotcha. Okay. Was that it, Tom?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who's here to represent 4190? Okay. Name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Maria Zelaya, and I'm talking by the owner, Martin Aguilar. He's the owner, but his English is not so well, so I'm trying to help them.
Okay. So he doesn't speak the language well, is that correct?
Who? The
owner.
Oh, yes, but it's not so well.
Okay, but does he understand the language well enough?
Some of, yeah, but let's say the half.
We're gonna proceed, but I just want to make you aware that we're gonna proceed in English, and I hope he.
Yes, I will. Anyway, I can explain him. Yes, yes.
And you're okay with her translating?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Anything you'd like to state to the board?
Well, just trying to find out the way to make works this situation with this house. Hoping that all that we explain at the beginning, when we present the beginning, some kind of business plan. Maybe it's good enough for you to understand what's the idea. But unless you have any request to us, we can try to fit it.
Board have questions for the applicant? Well, first of all, the business plan, if we approve, will be made part of the approval. This plan will become part of the record. If there's any change to the structure or any change in the business plan and how you operate, that will also necessitate you coming back here for
Yes.
additional approval. Normally, the initial approval on these type of requests is for 1 year only. And
You have to renew.
and then you'd come back and maybe it's longer or not. But the initial approval is normally for 1 year. There are certain documents and certain names and phone numbers that have to be put on record with the county services in case there's a problem.
Okay.
They can get in touch. And your proposal states that, the house is good for 14 residents.
Yeah.
The staff is telling us that, and our policy is 2 residents per approved bedroom. And if that were the case, then you would be limited to 10
Okay.
because of the septic system,
Yeah,
sanitary
I
system.
understand. Even if originally there's the house 3 bedrooms, it will keep the same 3 bathrooms.
Two per approved bedroom is what
No,
we,
I mean bathrooms.
bedrooms.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. All right.
We don't care how many bathrooms.
All right. In this case, we have to change the amount of people.
Now, if you have documentation that will prove that is in error, that's something we will, look at or the staff will look at. But right now, we're seeing a 5-bedroom approval is what they're telling us. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, all that being said,
Karen has some input.
yes,
I don't have a 5-bedroom approval.
okay.
There was a permit pulled in 2008, and it states on the permit from a 4 to a 5-bedroom. But that was on the permit. There was nothing approved from a 4 to a 5. And if you go back to 98, the inspection letter on the septic, it says this system was approved for, and it's got NA on number of bedrooms.
Well, what does that mean?
Not
available.
When you have a septic system that's existing and there's no records of that septic system, like no records on file at all, there will never be an approval.
So that was a re-inspection of an old system?
It was an inspection letter where they wanted to add a bedroom, and it stated on here.
And that was 98?
98 was when they had an inspection letter. In 2008 is when somebody wanted to apply for another bedroom, and they paid a $200 fee, and it stated on here from a 4-bedroom to a 5-bedroom, but there was no approval for that.
Okay, let me back up then. It states on the official form that it wants to go from a 4-bedroom.
On a permit application for whoever owned it at the time.
Oh, they put down the 4-bedroom. I mean, I'm trying to figure out who made the statement it was a 4-bedroom.
State. It just says for building codes, Joe Beatty has located the tank and field lines. They want to add a bedroom. But I don't have an approval for a 4-bedroom, and I don't have an approval for a 5-bedroom.
You have approval for a 3-bedroom. You don't have any of the original approval.
It sounds like what you have is a septic letter for an existing system that says that it's there, which we will allow permitting off of to go, for instance, from a 4 to a 5-bedroom.
We beat that to
Yeah.
Tucker's Crossroads a while ago.
So I think that's what you're dealing with.
Well, how do we determine the?
Well, they have 5 bedrooms. They've been permitted
I don't,
by the building, by,
this house, hold on. The house was built in 78.
right, but they came in for a permit in 98 to add a bedroom.
I don't know, I don't have a copy of a permit.
Okay.
I just have the septic records. They, there was a permit, but evidently they never added any field lines because there's not a final inspection for that.
Does the tax record show bedrooms?
I don't think so.
Just for your records, he bought the house last year in February. So anything else before that, we don't know anything about it.
It doesn't, no, it doesn't tax. record.
Normally, the tax records
I didn't think it.
would not.
They don't.
Just wanted to make
So the footage and living
Would-
space and whatnot.
Would you or would he testify that currently today there's 5 bedrooms? Or when he bought the house, were there 5 bedrooms?
There were 5. I was there. I was with them working the house when they bought the house.
Well, one thing's for sure, if we were to say it's a 5-bedroom and give them 10 guests, and it's stipulated for a year, if it fails, it's not going to fail long.
Right.
That's one, I guess, plus to
They're
the.
testifying he bought it with 5 bedrooms,
Yeah, I don't,
and that's what we.
Well, like I said, if it fails, it's not going to fail too long.
I agree.
I have no idea how many bedrooms.
All right, well, let's assume it's going to be 5 today. Okay. Now, I've forgotten where I was. Does the board have any other questions?
I don't know that we've got a very detailed business plan.
Yeah, because you need contact info.
I don't know that we really have hours of a quiet time, and we don't really have a business plan period, I don't think. Who's gonna
Caretaker.
contact
Who's the
us?
caretaker?
We went to the building in the back, and we give that information to a lady. I don't remember her name.
Basically, we got.
Let me see if I have the copy.
Okay. I tell you what, let's do.
This is the one.
We don't want to go down a path here of approval that's inconsistent with what we've done in the past. Okay, we want to try to treat everybody the same. We require a business plan, and I think that probably needs to be more developed than.
This is the only one that we showed to the lady, and she said it's okay for this.
Well, I don't know who the lady was, but I don't know that it's adequate. Do we know who saw this and said it was okay?
But we paid the $200 for all the things here.
But this doesn't tell us much about the operation. It tells us the house, when it was built, the footage, so on and so forth. But it doesn't tell us about the business. You know, we want to know what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, who's going to be the emergency contact, how far away they live, all the contact information. You know, where
But most
you can go and they can give you a copy of another business plan that's been approved.
okay.
And, you know, you can use that as a guideline. And get all of that together, and then, we can put you on the agenda for next month.
Okay, so where can I go to get this next information?
That would be in Karen Murphy's office.
Not just as discussion, could we stipulate that they turn into staff an approved business plan? I mean, staff has got to be within 10 miles with the caretaker, got to contact, I mean, we have a pretty standard quiet hours. Could we just, I'm not saying yes or no.
That's entirely up to you. You can do that, but.
Well, in other words, your business plan would normally have quiet hours,
Yes, even if they have cameras already installed on the outside for civilians. Anything if they are making too much noise late, his wife called to this. He's in charge of the group, and she said, "Please, it's late. You have to go inside." And all the neighbors are sleeping, so it's time to go inside. And they, thanks God, obey, and they go inside. And shut down all the
I
noise.
understand that, but my concern is also the business plan that we're not having this written. I've looked through here. I have concerns with those as far as the quiet hours. Who is gonna oversee this? How close they are?
Oh,
All this needs to be, as the board has stated, all this needs to be down in a business plan. We want to see that. I want to see that. Of a business plan, of your quiet hours, who is going to be overseeing this, how close they live. That's what we've got to go by.
Well, the owner are about 5 or 7 minutes from this site. They live about that minutes, 7.
I don't know that we are setting a good example by us trying to piece together a business plan as we sit here. I think you need to submit what
Okay.
the requirements are, and let's look at this, and we're gonna say that and 14 is not gonna work, I don't think, on the number of occupants. It needs to be based on on 2 per bedroom, based on the number of documented bedrooms that the house has.
Pictures as
Yeah.
well, or?
Again, I would ask you to go and she can email you or give you a copy of an existing plan and sort of let that be your guide and prepare that and submit it to us. And we can defer you to next month and you'll be the first case on the agenda, so you won't have to sit here all morning again.
That's first.
Also,
But-
Rusty, verifying bedrooms, room, actually bedroom, have a closet, not taking a room, dividing it up and making a bedroom. So, not saying that would be the case, but needs to be verification. Actually, how many bedrooms does that house have?
And in the interim, we would ask that you not operate until you get this approval.
Okay.
But I think putting all that together and submitted it properly with the number of bedrooms verified and the business plan, in the business plan.
I don't know that I can do anything about that.
Quiet times, emergency contacts, mode of operation, all that would be appropriate.
Okay.
Can I make one more statement?
They don't,
So I can,
Go in on them on the-
it's on the record. I just looked, where the house sold in February of 23, and it was a 4-bedroom, 3-bath.
Okay, so it's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath when it was sold a year ago, a year and a piece. If it got to be a 5-bedroom in the meantime, we didn't know how.
Okay.
And if it got improved from a 4 to a 5 without any changes in the septic and no proof that ever was a 5, we may have to rule on it being a 4-bedroom.
I think right now what we have, Karen's information is what needs to be based on.
Yeah.
2 people per bedroom, which would be a total of 8 people.
I don't think it would be unreasonable for us to ask you to get that information together for us. Okay? So in regard to 4190, I move that we defer that case until our August meeting.
Second.
Have a second. Do you have any discussion? But hold on, before we do that, I forgot. Does anyone else here wish to address this?
About questions and concerns.
Okay, please.
Fire marshal's behind me.
Please come on forward, because I was about to jump the gun.
Yeah.
Lauren Breeze, 1014 Bellwood Drive, Commissioner for County District 18, where this property is located. This actually was brought to my attention by some citizens. They've got a very nice big sign in the yard that designates the property. I haven't had any complaints about noise or anything like that, so that's not an issue, and they're obviously over the 2 acres. My concern is the septic situation. So the advertisement actually says 6 bedrooms, 7 beds, and 14 people. Now, I have already been through a situation with an overcapacity septic tank that blew field lines that ended up in the courts with criminal discharge of sewage. It's a very long process. It took 2 years for TDEC to actually refer it over, and in the meantime, you had active raw sewage on the ground. So, I don't want to see that happen anywhere ever again. So, I just ask that when they come back, they actually present you with a septic permit based on a certain number of bedrooms if possible. then
That we cannot get that, Lauren. That's you're at most what you're going to get from them if the state has no septic records, is a letter of a functioning septic system that exists.
okay.
That's
They will go out there and look and say, it appears to be functioning.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I would just
What we can do is based on the information we have,
Right.
is limited, you know.
that's what I'm asking is please keep
Because
that
if
in
it's
mind.
grown between the time it was sold until today, then it either needs to be justified or ungrown, you know.
Yes. Well, I guess that is my point. I just don't want to be in a situation where you put 14 people on a septic tank that was, for 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms or whatever it actually is permitted for. And being that we don't have a permit, I would hope that you would use some caution in your decision, but for occupancy going forward.
I think to say that we would
So,
lean toward the more conservative side would be appropriate.
thank you. I agree. That's all I ask.
One question for you.
Sure.
I noticed in the picture in there, the sign, is it already operating as a bed and breakfast? Or?
It is. This is currently operating as an Airbnb and has been probably for a year, maybe, based on what I was told by citizens. So they are currently actively operating. They have guests booked. If you look at Airbnb, they've got guests coming in the next couple of weeks. They just had guests. So yes, this is a currently operating Airbnb. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Daniel, do you have something you want to add?
Good morning, it's still morning. Daniel Cowan, County Fire Marshal. Yes, sir. I have a question for Tom. Normally Airbnbs are 10 that y'all approve.
Or 10
occupants.
No, sir. It's based on the it's based on the number of bedrooms if it's on septic, it's based on number of bedrooms. If it's not on septic, it kind of is, they can name a number and the board has to determine whether or not it's reasonable based on the number of bedrooms in the house, maybe.
Normally what I see is 10 residents. In the fire code, when you go above 10, it changes the occupancy type completely. In my language, it goes from an occupancy type R3, which is a standard residential home, 10 or less. But when you go above 10, it changes to R1. And in the fire code R1, they're going to have to submit a plan to me. It's going to have to go to the state fire marshal's office. So there's going to be some there's going to be some construction requirements inside.
That's good to know.
What are the requirements of that plan? You know, what does it contain?
It could very well. They'll have to get at least a letter from the state fire marshal's office.
If they're above 10.
No review, and then it'll bounce back to me, and at that point, I'm going to flow through the code. But for right now, it's a R1.
If they're above 10. Correct?
Sir.
If they're above 10.
If they're above 10, yeah.
So 10 or less is.
So when I hear 14, it immediately changes the occupancy type and
So
it's
based
more
on
stringent.
our 2 guests per bedroom guideline, anything above 5 bedrooms sends up a flag in your office.
Red flag. Yeah, I got a flag. I actually stepped out a minute ago so I can pull the right code up just to make sure I was on the right lines, and I was right. And so yeah, anything above 10, it basically turns it into a hotel.
Thank you for letting us know that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And if you'll let us know ahead of time on cases, we'll try to get it in our comments.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I get the agenda, but I didn't get the business plan, so I didn't know that number. And I heard the 14, and it threw a red flag for me. So
I don't know that we've ever had one that I recall on a sewer, or ever had one that went over 10. Maybe we have. I'm not.
I think we've had a few, maybe 12.
Do we? Okay.
Maybe.
I got it. No, I don't recall. Thank you, sir.
So, one more question for Karen.
Yeah. Well, I was in the, go ahead. Carrie's got a question for you.
Should they be advised to stop operating, or is that legal or illegal what they're renting out now?
Right now, they are, let's see, they've received their first notice of violation.
Okay, so they've already been cited.
They've already been cited, and we were waiting for this.
Do they understand that?
To go to the second notice of violation.
Well, Karen is telling us that she's already cited you for being in violation because you're operating without a permit.
Yeah, that's why we present the,
I understand, but we've deferred you. That process, needs to go forward.
Yes, it will. After this meeting, if it's deferred, it's already, it was supposed to be, the second letter was supposed to be sent out July 20th. Of course, we were waiting till this meeting. So if it's deferred till August, then the second notice of violation will go out after today.
And Mr. Chairman, I did make the applicant aware a moment ago that they needed to cease operation here in the interim until this is resolved.
If you continue operations, you will continue to be in violation. You'll get another letter in the next day or two. Yeah.
all right.
Thank you. Okay, so, I think I was in the middle of a motion when I realized I got a speeding ticket, going too fast. So, who made the motion? Did I make the motion?
You made the motion, Sonia.
Ever made.
You were headed there.
I was headed there, okay, thank y'all. In regard to 4190, then I will move that we defer that case until the August meeting to allow the applicant the opportunity to get their business plan together and submit it. And that has to be in a few days before this meeting, and they can tell you when that is. So the motion is to defer 4190 until August. Do I have a second?
Second. Oh, Neil, okay.
Mr. Neal seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no. The ayes have it. Thank y'all. Now, Tom, do you have anything else for the board?
I do not.
I will be absent in August. Mr. Neal has very nicely agreed to chair.
Have I? I thought I was gonna be absent that month too. Let's just defer everything to September and not have an August meeting.
Well, that's up to y'all.
Everybody in favor of that?
And we are adjourned.